I'm going to tell you the story of a Lego master builder called Connor, who met a medical physicist called Sean at a Lego show. And they're working together on a plan to help prepare and educate cancer patients for radiation. What I'd like to do is to invite Connor Brennan and his father, Peter Brennan, and medical physicist Dr. Sean Gagan. If you don't mind coming up here, guys, and just standing here for a second, because I'm going to show a video first. So if you could just stay there, but I just thought I'd introduce you to Connor, Peter and Sean, and I'll introduce them more formally in a moment. You'll be able to watch the video here. We're going to do this in a way, a different way around. We're going to show you the result of their collaboration so far and then tell you the story about what it's about. So 45 seconds about a model radiation machine, also known as a LINAC. No sound, just concentration. Hand up if you've seen one of these before. Hardly anybody. Can you give that a round of applause? Could I just ask that question in a different way? Hand up if you've seen a radiation therapy machine that's known as a linear accelerator, like the real deal. Hand up nice and high. So it's not that many people. That's very, very interesting. Come close to me, if you would. Maybe if Peter and Connor could come on this side and Sean on this side. Wow, that's so interesting and so pertinent to what we're about to tell you. Now, Sean, the gentleman with the beard, is a medical physicist. He's the State Director of Radiation Oncology, Medical Physics for South Australia, formerly Chief Medical Physicist for the ACT. He's the Director of the Australasian College of Physical Scientists and Engineers in Medicine and the Chair of the Better Health Technology Foundation. Tell us about meeting this young boy, Connor, at a Lego festival. How did you meet him and why did you ask him to build a model of a LINAC? And just so you know, Connor is a Lego master. This is the Her Majesty's Theatre, a model of Her Majesty's Theatre in Adelaide, which is currently on display at the Adelaide Convention Centre when you go to see Aladdin. This boy is a genius. You're meeting the future, okay? But why? You run into a boy at a thing and you ask him to build a LINAC. Why?
I was between jobs. So I just left Canberra and I was on holiday. And just before I started my new job at Royal Adelaide Hospital, I was doing the touristy thing and went to a technology expo, bumped into Lego makers and met Connor's dad and chatted about what we did. And we had a connection. And I've just heard recently the full connection, but Connor's mum was going through about to start radiation therapy. And we talked about linear accelerators and said it'd be great if you could build one. I mean, I know somebody who would love to have a model made. And
we'll hear about that cancer patient a little bit later. So if I could just come between you. So the person who had cancer but who had not yet started their radiation treatment was your mother and your grandmother. So can you tell us, Peter, your family's experience of cancer?
Yeah, so my mum, her mother, died of breast cancer back in the 50s, and she went through radiation therapy, and my mum, as a 9-year-old girl, had to nurse her through that.
You described it to me downstairs as agricultural in nature. Let's come forward so they can all see us. What do you mean?
Yeah, look, it was quite brutal back then. Obviously, I didn't know much about it, but it's been described to me as being quite a brutal process then, obviously, because it was very early days.
So when you met Sean, what was the situation with your mother at that point, not grandmother?
She had just been diagnosed with a tumour on the side of her face that needed radiotherapy treatment, and she was about a week away from starting that process.
And so what did you think when a medical physicist with a beard comes up to you and says, any chance you and your boy genius, that's from a cartoon series in the 70s, should make a model LINAC? What did you think?
Look, honestly, I love the idea because it's a worthwhile project. It's something that's got real value.
What I didn't tell you is that Sean also has a history as a science communicator and a teacher of young people, also using models, and he's done presentations at SciTech in Western Australia, taught at the university and also at the National Youth Science Forum. So what research did you do, Connor, when you were asked to create a model LINAC? Your grandmother has started treatment. What happens next?
So I went with my grandmother, I saw how it all worked, I saw her going through the treatment, the different stages, and what really happens and the layout of the rooms.
So explain, hardly anyone here knows what you're talking about, so tell us, you arrive somewhere, what do you go into and what do you see with your grandmother?
Yeah, so you arrive at the reception, you get all checked out, then you go into the rating room, and then you go into the doctor's office where they make sure all the paperwork's fine, and then you would go through this sort of maze, and that would lead you to the radiotherapy machine, and on the other side of that maze, there's a control room where the doctors and staff would control the machine that would go around.
And what did your grandmother, where was she placed and what did it look like?
So, yeah, she was placed on the bed. She had the mask on, and once they're starting to line everything up, no one's in the room, so everyone else leaves to not get affected by the radio.
And what's the mask?
So the mask it's a mask, and it and it clamps over the face so that the point of radiation is in the exact spot.
Okay. Look, thank you. You started, you were driving your mother to and from treatment at that time. Peter is a runner and he used some of the mental attitudes to deal with very tough marathon running, and he tried to assist his mother. But I think it was about 10 days in that you took Connor in to have a look so he could build the model. What was your impression when you saw what was happening to your mum?
Yeah, look, she'd obviously been telling me how it was going for her, and we were working on, what her mental approach was and just helping out in any way I could. And then we went in and saw the treatment, and the thing that really struck me was she lay down on the bed, and then the mask comes over and it comes right down to halfway down the chest, and then it has to be clamped into the bed. And so it was a real physical thing, a real visceral clunk. And you just got this sense of the force that's involved and the isolation, the physicality of that whole process.
In a second, I'm going to talk with Sean about his dream for what's going to happen with the mass production of these models. This is a process. It's a process and a system, I hope, based on some amazing experience. But what are you thinking about that model? Now, you're supporting your son. Just so you know, Peter and Connor and Sean have all come up from Adelaide today for this 10, 12-minute moment, just to share this with you. And we're enormously grateful. Just who's in the picture now that we can see on the screen?
Yeah, so in the picture that was just on the screen.
Could we go back? Thank you.
There it is. Yeah. There we are. So that's my mum and Connor, and you can see in the background the mask that she used. That's her mask. It's a almost exact copy of her shape. It's made specifically for her so that it holds her in an exact position. And you can see that she has not trivialised, but the red nose and all that sort of stuff. She's personalised it. It's part of her experience.
How do you think these models, if we could go to the model now, Corinne, thank you, can be used?
Look, I think I see it, especially for children, as a way to connect with the treatment. The treatment can become part of them, if you know what I mean, part of their experience. And I love the idea of them knowing what's going to happen to them before they get there.
Why?
Well, because that when I went in and saw it, I knew what she was going through. I thought I did. But there was still a shock to the system when you walk in and see this great big machine and you see the physicality of getting locked down on that bench. And if a child especially, but any patient, if they can make a connection, if they can have some idea of what's ahead of them, it helps them prepare for it.
And how would it help you as a family member supporting your mum?
Yeah, so it gives me an opportunity to have some experience of what she's going through. So when I'm talking to her, I know where she's coming from. It's really important if you're going to support someone to have more of an idea, as much of an idea as you can, of what they're going through.
I'm going to close in a second, Connor, by asking you how much of a technical challenge it was, but can you come forward, Sean? What's your dream for these models? Now we've got this amazing iteration from Connor.
Well, I'd love to see these models made available to kids, big and small, who might be undergoing treatment or who know someone undergoing treatment, so they can share that experience and that they can hopefully learn something that actually helps them connect with what's going on with somebody they know or themselves.
Just quickly, up on the screen, we've got from the Institute of Physics and Engineering in Medicine in the United Kingdom. About 2 years into this being discussed amongst us, we discovered that a professor in the United Kingdom had gone to China and mass-produced thousands of these model LINACs, as they're called, hashtag Little LINAC if you want to Google it, and they are being sold to raise money so that every child who has to have radiation therapy in the NHS will get one of these, and they make them with their parents to prepare them for it. And here it is, this is the British one. How can these people support this project? Oh, just very quickly, this is Leeds in the United Kingdom. I heard that they'd built a scale 1 to 6 model of a radiation LINAC, and there's Barbie. See how Barbie's got a tiny mask? And that actually works. It's an exact model of the LINAC that they have at Leeds Hospital. It's a major cancer centre. They have actually 5 LINACs. And that's a radiation therapy team. The lady on your left in the front is holding a little model. She's a medical physicist, because we've discovered medical physicists have models, all the radiation oncologists have models, and the radiation therapists have models because the companies promote their machines to them to sell them. It's the only people who don't have models are the patients and family, and we're going to change that. So how can these people support it, and why do you think it could help adults too?
Well, adults are big kids too. I mean, I like playing with Lego. And that's why I went to the Lego exhibition and bumped into Peter and Connor. But in terms of how to help, what Connor's produced is a design, and talking to Peter, coming up with how much would it cost to provide each of these models. And we talked today, and it's looking at about $130 is about a fair price in terms of the parts and all the labour, the postage to actually get it out somewhere. Talking to the manufacturers and get them behind us, and I'm pretty sure they'll be keen. They'll probably want to have their manufacturer's brand on something, the assembly instructions. We've got the Better Healthcare Technology Foundation, which can accept donations to help this project along. But we want to have something that we can say, this is what you'll get, and we're still working on that. But we want to launch that.
Yeah. So this is a work in progress. Connor, how hard was it technically? They've had quite a lot of media coverage in South Australia. How was it? What were some of the challenges of creating a moving Lego model of a radiation machine?
Oh, there's many challenges, including trying to get the right parts in the right colours, all the gearing and stuff to move around, and especially in a confined space in that grey box you could see, which is kind of under the bed, all the gearing mechanism for the gantry turning and the bed moving are under that. When did you first realise you were gifted with Lego? I've got no clue, but about 4 years ago I had hundreds of sets, something like that, and I started pulling them apart, and I started making things that I looked around and they were around me. So I'm from Adelaide, and I started making Adelaide buses. I did a few exhibitions, I got to know a few people, and it's gotten bigger and bigger.
And you now have connorbricks.com. Some of you may have seen the exhibition, but if you go to www.connorsbricks.com, you'll see this marvellous young man's work. We'll just show you the last slide because our time is up. And this is me. I've had the same cancer, very similar cancer to Connor, and Peter's mum and grandmum, and this is me in my mask. And I'd never seen a Linac or understood the purpose of the mask before the first of my 30 consecutive day treatments. And it was an extremely traumatic experience, and it's a common issue for head and neck cancer patients requiring radiation. So it's utterly thrilling to me. Sean, just quickly explain how you got involved with me.
So we met about 3 years ago now, I think, at a medical physics conference in Sydney. And Julie was emceeing one of the sessions, and we got chatting, and we were on Twitter.
Constantly, we're virtually married on Twitter. I've even met his wife. But the point, I guess, why I was so thrilled that Sean was able to take time off work and come today is he listened to me and said, we can prepare people better than this. And then he found these wonderful men and is progressing it. And I suppose to me, Sean is a wonderful model of a busy clinician listening to patients and family and trying to help us. And we're doing it, we're not even in the same state, and we're pursuing this goal. And I feel like, poor Tyler, who's in difficulty at RPA today, if I drop off the twig, I'm confident that Sean will finish this with Connor and with Peter. And I just really want to thank them for coming. Thank you.